Hi, this is Lee Balcom with SaveTheMarriage.com, and I'm here because people are often asking me what they could do right now to start saving their marriage. And so I decided to come up with a video series about the top 10 rules for saving your marriage. And today we're covering rule number 1, which is marriage is about being a we. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Sue and Bill. They met in college, dated through their first few years out, and they found good jobs. After about 5 years of dating, it was time for the next step. So, surrounded by family and friends, they married and started their life together. They split the bills, split house duties, and carried on with life. About 9 years into their marriage, they arrived in my office, both completely depleted, each feeling like he or she was carrying the burden of everything. In the first 15 minutes, each tried to top the other on their contribution and how important what he or she did as compared to the other person. And with that, I knew that Sue and Bill had made the single biggest mistake in marriage. They were so close to the secret to a successful marriage and never made it. Do you want to know the one biggest, simplest, and most difficult secret of marriage? It's right in front of you, but you may miss just how important this one is, and how subtle the difference is between marriages that fail and those that succeed. In fact, this is the one piece of information I try to get into every person I see before they get married. And it's my personal central goal of working with couples both before and after they marry. You miss this one and you will always be caught in a malnourished and hobbled relationship. Ready? Marriage is about building a we. It's about becoming a solid team, always having each other's back and always in each other's corner. We. Get there and you will have a successful marriage. Notice I did not say you would have a trouble-free marriage, only that you would have a successful marriage. Every single marriage in the world has challenges and difficult times. The question is really about how you approach the difficulties, not whether you have them. Being a we is what gets you through the difficulties. Now first, let's talk about what this does not mean. This is not about being in a permanent mind meld with the other person, liking the same things, wanting the same things, thinking the same things, completing each other's sentences, blah, blah, blah. That is a way of pretending you are alike. It's a false sense of connection that will only last until one or the other becomes honest about who they are. Now second, it's not about giving up yourself for the other person or the other person giving him or herself up for you. And perhaps an obvious third, it's not about building separate lives that come together to pay the bills, take care of the house, and raise the kids. It's about two people deciding, committing to being a team, a unit, a new entity. It's about each supporting the other, also looking out for what is best for both, for the whole. Now, this is a crucial and subtle difference. You can't be part of a team, but still see it as a way to get what you want. But seeing yourself as part of something that is an entirely new entity, and this is the subtle distinction. It is not cooperation. It's about being a we, a new entity. How close are you to that today? Do you find yourself in power struggles? Do you argue about money, sex, parenting, and other central issues? Do these arguments often end with little to no movement? Do you feel like you're in a stalemate? Do you both constantly keep saying silently or out loud, "What about me?" Do you feel like you're headed in different directions? Do you feel the need to disagree or argue your point even when you mostly or completely agree? The more you answered yes to the above, the more you can be sure that you have not made the leap to being a we. Or perhaps you can answer this one question: do I feel more alone than I want to in this relationship? If that is a yes, then you are not quite there. But that does not mean it's your fault. It's quite the opposite. Unfortunately, our culture does a very bad job in preparing people for marriage. In other words, nobody told you the goal of marriage was to build a we, and if they did, they probably didn't tell you A, how to do it, and B, how subtle it can be. Some couples actually make it there almost by accident. Others seem to struggle against it, refusing to see the obvious need to get there. So let me make a blanket statement. I have never, in well over 20 years of working with couples, seen a couple who made it to we end in divorce. But I have seen repeatedly when a couple does not get there, the relationship at least deteriorates over time, ending in divorce or internal separation. There are several reasons why people don't make it to we. Quickly, let's look at why people don't get there. One is lack of understanding that this is the goal. This is where our culture has failed us. We've done a poor job as a society of letting people know this is even what marriage is about. Thus, nearly 50% of marriages end. Two is a fear of loss of individuality. While this is not what happens, since there's such a poor understanding, people fear this. Again, this is merely a misunderstanding of what it means to be a we. Three, caught in a fear or anger cycle. So if you don't know this is the goal, and you get caught in ensuing power struggles, over time the anger builds. And anger is really a secondary response to fear. The fear is that you will not get what you need, which triggers a very primitive response, which only leads to more power struggle, more fear, and more anger. Fourth is misperceptions and perceptions and misperceptions of each other. Because once you slipped into a power struggle and the anger-fear cycle, you begin to justify the situation. We all misperceive the other person. We begin to only see the shortcomings, the lack of investment, etc. At that point, the perception is that the other person is not on your side. Which raises the question, how do you get there? How do you become a we? Well, let me assure you it is possible, and is even possible if one of you is resistant to getting there, at least right now. And let me assure you that we humans are actually designed for this. We're wired to be in relationship, to create that level of relating. What we really have to do is get ourselves out of our own way and let what should happen actually happen by becoming a we. So let's talk about some starting points. Okay. First thing is about you. Do not address we with your spouse. Don't announce that you have discovered the secret and your spouse needs to get on board. That's going to cause resistance. Work on your concept of we. Until you understand we as a concept, you cannot expect your spouse to accept it. Okay, so there are some specific steps to being a we. Let's talk about that. First, step one. Make a careful examination of the places that you think you, me, instead of we. Go through in your mind all the different areas of your life. Where do you keep your spouse out of your life? Then remind yourself that you are a part of a we. Start with that as your basic assumption and ask yourself this. Where do I need to let my spouse into my world? Don't worry about where you're not in their world. Get them into your world. Step two. Train yourself to think in terms of we and us, not you or me. Whenever there's a decision, ask the magic question, what is best for us? This is a magic question because the answer is more creative than what is best for me or what is best for you. It comes up with a third solution. It forces you to move to we. Step number 3. This is a big one. Accept your full responsibility to be a we. Regardless of your spouse's outlook or actions, you are still pulling for the we. Refuse to be lured into an if you don't, I won't approach to life. And invite your spouse by your actions, not your expectations. When you start moving in that direction, it will become magnetic to your spouse and they'll start moving in the same direction. Remember, the biggest part of saving your marriage is becoming a we. I'm going to invite you, if you're ready to save your marriage, to come visit us at SaveTheMarriage.com. Come visit us today and we'll help you further your steps to save your marriage.